The number people keep repeating is wrong, completely wrong, and the reason it keeps surviving is because it sounds logical. When fans ask how much the RB22 really costs, they picture a single figure, a neat number under the budget cap, something you can compare line by line with Ferrari's SF26. But that assumption collapses the moment you understand how modern Formula One actually spends money. Because the RB22 wasn't expensive in the way people think. It was dangerous in a way the cost cap was never designed to stop. This matters right now because Formula One has sold the idea that the budget cap has equalized the field. That dominance is supposed to be harder, that advantages should be temporary. And yet, here we are again, staring at a Red Bull that looks calm, resolved and immediately usable, while rivals are still talking about learning and validation. The uncomfortable question isn't whether Red Bull spent more, it's when they spent it, and where that spending no longer counts. Here's the part most people missed. The cost cap doesn't measure total investment, it measures annual operating expense. Those two things are not the same, and Red Bull figured that out earlier than almost everyone else. Within the first laps of RB22 running, engineers across the paddock noticed something unusual. Not speed, not outright aggression, but a lack of noise. No frantic setup changes, no visible correction phases, no car that looked like it was being driven around its weaknesses. That silence is expensive, and it doesn't come from money spent in one season. It comes from years of groundwork already paid for. The RB22 didn't suddenly appear in 2026. Its foundation stretches back through multiple regulation cycles into periods where infrastructure spending, simulation platforms, aerodynamic philosophy, and internal tooling upgrades were either partially capped or not capped at all. Those investments don't reset when the rules do, they compound. Ferrari's SF26, by contrast, tells a different story. It's a car built to adapt, to explore, to protect against uncertainty, larger cooling margins, modular bodywork, conservative packaging. All of that sounds sensible, and it is. But it's also expensive later because every conservative choice delays commitment, and delayed commitment under a cost cap often costs more than early conviction. Let that sink in. Red Bull's most expensive RB22 work likely happened before anyone ever started counting. Years of CFD correlation, years of power unit integration planning, years of internal design loops that no longer need repeating. That money doesn't show up when fans ask, how much did the RB22 cost? But its effect absolutely does. That's insane, because what looks like equality on paper is actually asymmetry in practice. Ferrari is spending cap money to learn what Red Bull already knows, and learning is one of the most expensive activities in Formula One. If you enjoy pulling at threads like this, you're already ahead of the curve. Smart fans, subscribe. Now let's talk about why the RB22 feels finished, while the SF26 feels cautious. This is where the comparison stops being technical and starts becoming political. Ferrari entered the 2026 cycle with uncertainty on multiple fronts. New internal leadership structures, a new long-term driver balance, a power unit philosophy still being optimized for energy deployment rather than outright combustion performance. That uncertainty forces flexibility. Flexibility forces compromises, and compromises burn money twice. Red Bull entered the same cycle with stability, stable leadership, stable driver reference, stable development philosophy. That stability is worth tens of millions in avoided waste. When your lead driver gives repeatable, precise feedback, you don't build parts that get thrown away. You don't chase setup ghosts. You don't redesign entire systems mid-season. This is where Max Verstappen's role quietly changes the cost equation. The RB22 wasn't just built to the regulations. It was built around a known operating window defined by a known driver. That reduces iteration cycles dramatically. Ferrari's SF26 has to serve a broader set of unknowns. Red Bull's RB22 serves clarity. Was that genius or inevitability? Here's a stat that rarely gets discussed. Under the budget cap, mid-season cooling architecture changes are among the most expensive updates a team can make. They touch bodywork, internals, airflow, reliability, and correlation simultaneously. Red Bull's RB22 doesn't need that change. Ferrari's SF26 might. So when people say Ferrari spent less, what they really mean is Ferrari postponed spending. And postponed spending under a cap often explodes later. Be honest, who's actually comfortable right now? Because the real cost of the RB22 isn't what Red Bull spent. It's what they won't have to spend next year. That's the advantage nobody budgets for. And here's where it gets uncomfortable for the sport. The FIA regulates annual expenditure. It does not regulate historical momentum. It does not regulate knowledge accumulation. It does not regulate timing. Red Bull exploited that gap legally, strategically, and relentlessly. Ferrari complied, cleanly, transparently, and may have complied themselves into a disadvantage. If this kind of analysis is your thing, you're not a casual fan. Stay sharp, subscribe. Now ask yourself this question: if the RB22 truly cost the same as the SF26, why does it behave like a car that already understands itself? Because cost isn't just money, it's confidence. And confidence is expensive to build, but cheap to maintain once you have it. Ferrari's SF26 isn't flawed. It isn't slow, but it's cautious. And cautious cars are expensive later, because the moment you decide to push, you pay twice. Once for the safe version, once for the aggressive correction. Red Bull already paid that bill years ago. That reframes everything. RB22 wasn't cheap. It was prepaid. SF26 isn't inefficient. It's deferred, and that difference will shape not just one season, but the entire arc of this regulation cycle. Is this the start of another long Red Bull era, or the moment Ferrari's patience finally pays off? Because there is risk here. Red Bull's approach narrows margin for error. When you front-load advantage, failure becomes more costly. Ferrari's flexibility gives them recovery options. Red Bull's efficiency gives them speed. If you were team boss today, which would you choose? That's the debate I want to see in the comments. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Formula One didn't eliminate spending wars. It hid them in timelines. Red Bull mastered that timeline. Ferrari is still negotiating with it. And that's why the RB22 didn't arrive loud. It arrived calm. Calm cars win championships. If you want to see how this financial philosophy translates directly into on-track dominance, there's another piece of this puzzle waiting. Because next, the question isn't how much the RB22 cost. It's how much it will force everyone else to spend just to survive.